Hi, welcome to Milk and Honey Heritage Farms. I'm Heather. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to do some baking. I bet you're wondering what we're going to be doing, so let's see. So first of all, I've got all my things that I need to do this recipe. And I'll share with you the instructions on how to do it in the description. And I always add a little twist to it, so stay with me while we do it. And right now, I am going to preheat my oven to 350 degrees. And I think you're going to hopefully like this recipe. It's a good fall, winter type recipe. So first of all, what I'm going to do is make some space for myself. You can use any types of pans that you want. You can use bread pans, baking pans, whatever. I'm going to use cupcake pans, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some Crisco and a napkin, and I'm going to put some of that inside each cupcake spot. I don't know what you call them. Spot? So I just get a glob on my napkin, and I'm going to go around. You don't want to get too much. Sometimes you have to go through a couple of them, and see, I know that's a lot. But so what you want to do, let me get these because I got quite a big glob. I try to do several at once. So see that, how there's a little bit, and see how that one has too much? You don't want too much. You just want a little bit. Sometimes people use oil. You can take a napkin or a clean cloth and wipe all these with some oil and put some flour in there, and then knock off the extra flour, so that way you don't get any sticking. So, but you want to get all the edges and all the corners. So I'm going to do these two pans, and I'll bring you back for the next step. All right, so what I'm going to do is get a mixing bowl, a big mixing bowl for this next step. And what I have done is pre-measured some shortening. I need 2/3 cup in that bowl, and also I will need 2 2/3 cup of sugar. And when you do powdered stuff in a measuring cup, you'll want to put it on a flat surface and kind of shake it and make sure that it's exactly at your measurement that you're needed for your recipe. I'm going to pour the sugar into this big mixing bowl. I'm going to use my rubber spatula and get the shortening out. And what we're going to do is we're going to cream these two things together with a mixer. You can do it by hand if you don't have a hand mixer. So it's going to be a little bit noisy for a second, which won't take very long, so be patient. I'm going to stick the little blender thingies right on top of the shortening. Be very careful. So you can do it like that, or you can take a whisk like this, and you can just keep mashing it down. And you just keep going around and around so that you can get the sugar and the shortening mixed up as well as you can. You can spin the bowl. I like to spin the bowl. You don't have to. And so the ingredients that I'm using today are ingredients that you should be able to find in any store that has food in it. And typically I'll use a fresh pumpkin, but we are going to use a canned pumpkin because not everybody has access to fresh small sugar pumpkins. If you do, go ahead and use it. You'll use the same amount of a fresh pumpkin as you would canned pumpkin, but I'm just going to use the canned That way it's easier for everybody to do it. Okay, so we got that all mixed up, and we're gonna set this big bowl aside. And I'm gonna have another clean bowl that's smaller, and now I'm going to add 4 eggs. Any kind of eggs that you can get. If you have your own eggs, great. If you can get some fresh eggs, even better, right? And so my eggs are washed. So 4 eggs into this second bowl, mixing bowl. And if you make a mess, you know you're doing something right in the kitchen, right? I got some eggshell in there. You know what? That's a mistake that people do. My hands were previously washed, as you do when you are cooking. So 4 eggs, 1 can of pumpkin, 1 pound of canned pumpkin. And you're going to add that into that same bowl as the eggs. Get it all scraped out. Don't leave anything behind. Never leave anybody behind. All right. All right, so there's that. Set the can aside, rinse it out, and recycle that. Okay, so now we're gonna do 2/3 cup of water. Let me get some 2/3 cup of water. Two-thirds cup of water. See, I made a mess. I'm doing something right. And then we're going to add 3 cups of flour. And I'm gonna add the 3 cups of flour to the big bowl. But first, let's add our seasonings. We're gonna add 2 teaspoons of, let me get this egg dish out of the way. All right, so 2 teaspoons of baking soda. I'm missing must be from another time I cooked. So anyways, this one's a half of a 1. So I'm gonna do this 4 times to get my 2 teaspoons. If you scrape the top of that off, it gets it nice and even. See that? So I'm gonna do 4 of these, which equals 2. There's that. Set that aside. And now we're going to do 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Remember, when you open your salt, open it over a sink or a bowl, because somehow it always seems to get in the lid. 1.5 teaspoons. This is a half, so I'm going to do 3 of these, but I'm going to do a little bit less in one because when I opened it, some spilled in there. So there we go. There's 1.5 of salt. Now we're going to do 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. And again, if you use this little lip right here, there we go. And now I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. And that's what the recipe calls for. Oh, I got a new container that I need to open up. Let's see if I can get it open. I'll have to use scissors. And again, this one's a half, so I'm going to do 2 to equal 1. 1, or 1/2 of 1, and 1. But I don't like to add just 1, even though the recipe calls for it. Trust me, I've been making this recipe for a really long time. I am doubling my cinnamon, which would be 2 teaspoons, but if you're not a cinnamon person, just do 1 teaspoon. All right, and then I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of cloves. Again, this is my see if you turn if you can, sometimes if the container is too full, if you turn it like this, you can get it scraped pretty evenly. So that way you have the right measurement. Okay, it says you can add cloves or nutmeg, or both if you want. I've done both. Let's see. You can add some coarse chopped up nuts. I'm not adding any nuts, but I am going to add some allspice. And I'm just going to do half a teaspoon. You don't want to do too much. You don't have to add the allspice. That's just an added Heather thing. Yes. Anyways, so then you're going to want to get that all mixed up really well. Make sure you're scraping the sides and getting the bottom. When you're stirring, you want to stir from the bottom up. And then I'll get that mixed up in a second, but I'm going to move you along and show you. We're going to do 3.5 cups, 3 1/3 cups of flour. So I'm going to get my measuring cup. I have a really big measuring cup, but you can use the smaller one. Get my flour. I don't use flour too often. That's why I have such a big container. And also for storage. Okay, so 3 1/3 cups of flour. And I already have a little scoop-de-doo in here. Scoop-de-doo. So I hope everybody's getting prepared for winter. The fall is coming. There's so many beautiful colors starting to happen in my area. And so remember I told you when you do dry ingredients, you want to shake it so it's level so you know if you have it at the right measurement. Yep, looks good. I'm going to add that to my big mixing bowl. I'm going to finish mixing this, and then when I'm done mixing this, I'm going to add it to the big bowl and mix everything up, and I'll bring you back for the next step. All right, so I mixed my 3 1/3 cups of flour in with the already mixed shortening sugar that we did at first. And this is the eggs, the flour, and the spices. Sorry, the eggs, sugar, and spices. And what you do is you want to, when a recipe calls for you want to make a well, you kind of push the sides up of your ingredients. So it's kind of like a center hole. I know it's kind of hard to see because it's white. And then you're going to put your wet ingredients in the middle. And using a spatula will help you get all the stuff off, less to have to wash when it comes time to clean up all this. Right? So there's that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix that up. And then I'm going to take you to the next step, which will be putting them in the muffin pans. Simple as that, right? All right, so I've got all the ingredients mixed up, and always scrape the sides of the bowl and mix from the bottom up. And that way you can make sure that you get everything from the bottom blended in, right? All right, so when we fill up our muffin pans, your cake pan, whatever kind of a pan that you're using to cook in, you're going to only want to fill them up halfway to 2/3 of the way full, so that way they don't go over the top. And so that's what you do is you just go about, so, you know, about 2/3 of the way. I can probably take a little bit out of there, but I'm going to get all of these filled until I don't have any more batter left, and then I'm going to stick them in the oven. And it says for a 9 by 5 by 3 loaf pan, you can do 2 of them, that you're going to want to bake that for 60 to 75 minutes. I'm going to check these probably at 30 minutes. It might take a little longer. And what I do is I use a metal shish kebab skewer, and I will insert this into the center when I think that they're done. I'll go into the center of the baked good and I'll pull it out, and if it comes out pretty much all the way clean, that's telling me that they're actually really done. If they're not, then you're going to want to leave them in the oven for a little bit longer, but keep monitoring so you don't overcook them. All right? All right, so I got 2 cupcake trays filled with my batter, and I used a bigger cake pan. You can use a smaller one, but it didn't quite even fill halfway, but you know what? It's still going to be delicious. In case you're wondering, this is pumpkin bread. So we're going to put these in the oven. Usually a loaf pan that's halfway filled or 3/4 of the way filled will take 60 to 75 minutes. And I'm going to check these muffins at 30 minutes with my skewer to see if the centers of them are cooked enough. Pumpkin bread, it's a hit for the holidays. You can make some to give to your neighbors or friends or any events that you go to, holidays. If you haven't given this a try, or if you have even, leave it down in the comments. I'd like to hear how you like pumpkin bread. All right, it's been 30 minutes and I'm going to check and see if my pumpkin bread muffins are done. So like, remember I told you I'm using a metal shish kebab skewer, and I'm going to go down in the middle and up, clean, and I'm going to check another one in another location just to make sure. And it comes out nice and clean, so that means these are ready to be pulled out. So I'm going to pull them out. I'm going to let them cool for a few minutes, and then I'm going to take them out and put them on a cooling rack to cool down. And then I'm going to get something to put. I always put hot stuff on hot pot pads, just in case. You never know. Look at that. Look. They look good. All right, let's get one of these out. Looks good, huh? Well, thank you for joining me in making some pumpkin bread, and I hope you give it a try if you've never done it. And please like and share this video with all your friends, and I'll see you again in the next one. Have a beautiful day.